How about now? The stuff that we worked on last week. The cool thing is it's out. Let me make sure I got my volumes here. I think you should be able to hear me okay. We got the mic working. Maybe you'll hear a little bit of music. I can hear my music. I don't need to listen to that or that. I think you should be good. Just double checking, right? It's Sunday. This has been on my mind ever since, so I'm here. But just like always, let's make sure that everybody understands. I'll do I do these drawings. It's okay to interrupt me. Right, that one should be saved. Let's do this. Frobotech, I was just thinking about you because I actually have something packed now. It's officially packed and it's ready. All I gotta do is get to the place, put it in the mail. But I got a package for you. Merry Christmas. I'm glad that you're here. It's so nice that you show up, and I appreciate you showing up. So, first things. I'm working on. I got excited about what we were doing last week. Thomas, welcome in. Man, I am grateful that you guys show up. I really am to come and hang out. It feels like but it's not work, right? Like I feel like I got a team, and you guys are a part of it, and I really appreciate that. Happy holidays. I'm taking another break from robots. Now I'm working on my video game. Great idea. I actually saw a streamer on Twitch the other day. There is a Java game SDK. It's called IDX or IDG. That's what the libgdx. So when I worked at Redis, Redis, you may or may not know, has some really amazing features that are really powerful for games. And yeah, so we had these great relationships with gaming companies. And I'm a Java guy, so I was like, I want to be able to talk the talk and talk about games. So I dug into libgdx, and I believe I went through a couple tutorials, but I believe I still have that code around somewhere. That might be fun to jump back into. So good luck, like fun. I'm kind of focused on a couple of other things before I come back to it, but I am gonna bookmark that. Thomas says, I had a slow weekend just reading manga and making Christmas cookies. They are called Plätzchen in German. How do you call them in this? Christmas cookies. I don't know what those specifically are. Oops, I hit the thing. Let me see if I can find it out. Christmas cookies. Yeah. So these are a part, I have German heritage. So these are a part of, what I saw every Christmas growing up. I'm not sure that they had any other name. I don't remember a special name. So yeah. Focus. So yeah, my mind has been racing. So here's what happened last week. I did like a Twitch metrics with Prometheus and got that working, and it works. But then somebody asked me about State Machine. So let's talk about this. Like we had Twitch metrics exporter Prometheus. And these are just things that I just did on the stream, right? Just trying things out. But then I went from that, I went to the YouTube video event listener, and I spent a couple of days on this. Made great progress. And then I also had a bunch of help from the audience. But on Friday, I didn't stick the landing, right? Friday, I did not stick the landing. But the cool thing is, Saturday, Jonas sent me a message pointing to that fix. It was just I chose the wrong URL. Where he pointed me to this blog, and in the blog, it pointed out like, hey, you know about the URL, and I'd found the right URL. Like, this is the one that I was using, right? This is the one that you see. You get the feeds for videos at XML, and that gives you all your videos. But this blog pointed out that you need to put this XML in there. So when you add the XML, you get a feed. I hit refresh. Like, this is my feed for my channel. You get a feed. It doesn't have all the stuff in it, right? This one has all the stuff. This one doesn't. This one only gets populated when you subscribe, and it's only for that event, and that's what shows up. So anyways, now that he did that, I resubscribed and I got it all set up. And we can see here that when I just started the stream, when I started the show, I got an event that says, hey, I started the show. And now that YouTube, it gave it a video ID, right? That's the ID that you're seeing. If you're watching YouTube, it's right here, right? So if I go to YouTube and I plug in that ID, you're gonna be watching the stream. So very, very cool that I got that help like after. And then I was coaching basketball in the morning, so I got it in the mid-afternoon when I was watching my nieces play basketball and some other friends from the community play basketball. But it was just on my head, and I didn't really have time to sit down at my computer. I was able to change the URL from my phone while I was watching games and hanging out with folks. But I didn't really get time to sit down at my computer. So the home team is playing live right now, and we got family guests upstairs. But I'm here because I want to get some things out of my head. So here I am. And this is where it led me. Somebody asked about Spring State Machine. You got some tips how to grow into a team lead engineering leader. You know what? You're doing it. Like this is a good question. It's also kind of top of mind for me. The way I think about things, right? I'm going to draw this picture, right? There's always this, please hold. Hey, sorry about that. Like I said, I have family here, so they're doing stuff upstairs. So I see, Andre, I see your question. I'll jump right back to that, but I'm going to answer Thomas here real quick about like, what are the tips to grow into a team lead, engineering leader? And one of the things that I say, and I believe, like everybody is on like a journey somewhere, right? And there are different points in your career. Sometimes when you're here, you can't even see what's over here. You can't even you can only see so far, right? You can only see so far of what's on that journey. I always say that there's infinite ways to get there, but there's no shortcuts. Everybody's journey looks a little bit different. But the part here is like, what are the tips when, no matter where you are, for everybody, there's always somebody in front. There's always somebody that's kind of further along the journey than you are. But there's also always somebody behind you on that journey. So I'm old and I try to like break these things down in just like simple things to explain. But this one, it's fresh in my head. I was having this conversation earlier today already. The things that differentiate a leader from, right, you can be a great engineer. You can be moving and progressing and doing all these good things, engineering. And there's tons of different types of leaders. But for me, the thing that really changed my dad, it was advice from my dad, is like, you can't just look forward. You have to realize that there's always somebody behind you. And the change for me was when I realized that, and instead of just looking forward, I was constantly looking behind me to see how far, how fast, how I could help bring these people closer to me. Reduce that gap. It's that practice, right? I say every rep counts. You know, you got to practice these things, do them until they're easy. And I try to demonstrate. I'm hoping that what I'm demonstrating points to that fact. Thomas, you know, like, hey, you've got a question. Jonas, I see you there. Thomas, when you have a question, I'm not your leader. I'm not your manager. But one of the things that I try to do in my life is not just look at where I want to go and all the things that I'm trying to learn. The more I can help bring people closer and further along the journey, the more tips and advice I can give, just like this, the better. So that's the one tip that I would say that I can give you is, as you're looking forward to grow into that team lead engineering, you can practice it right now by looking for people that are behind you, that are trying to catch up to what you're doing. You are, because I know you personally, you are well beyond your years. You're doing great things. Don't rush yourself. But it's stuff like this little community, how you answer questions and how you're always giving back, like that's it. That's it. So that's my advice. That's the one thing that differentiates, because there's a lot of people that are driven and they want to get, you know, going in their career, and there are a lot of people that there's different types of leaders and managers. And there's different fits. There's chemistry for everybody. Just because somebody's a great leader doesn't mean they're going to be a great leader for you. So start now, start practicing. As you're going forward on your journey, right? I should probably do this, right? As you're going forward on your journey, as you're looking forward, take some time every once in a while. Look at the people around you. Like, look at the people that are here. Yeah. So look at this. This is my guy. Come on in. I'm going to send you a link right now. I'm really feeling great right now. So let me get Robert in here. One sec. Please hold. This is what we're doing, right? So Robert is a longtime friend who when it comes to what I'm doing, he inspired me along the way. Robert, I'm just putting it over in LinkedIn since you're there already. And come on in. Come on in. So hopefully that helped. So here we are. This is what we did. I'm going to come up to the state machine. Hopefully that made sense, Thomas. That's the best I can do right now. That's it. I think that you're doing a great job. There's no doubt in my mind that you're going to be progressing far and fast. And yeah, Robert's going to join us in a second. Robert is leadership over at Sousa Rancher. I'll let him introduce himself. This is what we do. People helping people, and I'm grateful that everybody's here hanging out on Sunday. Well, then I think that the advice is the same, no matter who I'm giving it to. I first want to be a great engineer. Fantastic. At some point, right? And for you, right? At some point, you're doing things in public, Thomas. I believe you're doing this already. But for your friend, if that makes sense to you, that's the advice I'd give them. Adjust for the audience, but this is the same advice that I would give anybody on that journey. All right. So, yes, engineer first. Fantastic. I'm going to bring on my friend, Robert.
What?
How are you? Let me make sure that I got you. Hold on one sec. I got to unmute this. I'm going to turn off the music. And I want to make sure that I've got everything. I can hear you. But
can you hear me?
Kind of quiet. Let me turn you up a little bit. So I can hear you. Thomas, of course. Hopefully that works out. But you know how to get a hold of me. If your friend would like to chit chat more, like, come on, right? Ask questions, interrupt. We're here to help. I'm trying to do this. I'm practicing. I want to help out as much as I can. Robert, I'm so glad you're here. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. How are you?
Real quick, is audio okay for everybody? What we're doing right now, do I have this? Oh, there might be an echo. Hold on. Let me fix this. Audio. I'm going to fix this. Now, let's see. Do you have an echo?
No.
Is everything okay for you?
Yep.
All right. And if audience, let me know if there's any issues. Let's jump back here. How are you?
I'm good. You had something going on. I was like, wait, what? Do you want a company? There's some good conversations going on here. I was like, I want to join.
Yeah, this is what we're doing. So I was kind of like reviewing the week, and I'm trying to stream more. So just like set up a little bit of time in the mornings. Again, like you inspire me. You're doing great things. Let's do this. Would you mind introducing yourself to my community?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for having me on. My name is Robert Serchia. My current role is Deshaun's second BFF. What I do for a living right now is I am the Director of Community Evangelism, or DevRel, for a company called Sousa, S-U-S-E, is how it's spelled. We have a couple good products. Sousa Linux Enterprise. This product called Rancher. Some people have heard of it. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but yeah, that's what I do.
That's awesome. So yeah, we've known each other for a while. I'm gonna tell a story because it relates to what we're doing. It was when I was at MidZero. I was very familiar with Cloud Foundry. I was in love with Spring Boot already, but I was on the engineering side. I was engineering manager. So again, this is what we were doing. And as an engineering manager, I felt like I needed to go out and find the new things. I needed to find inspiration. I needed to find people that were, let me go back to my picture. I needed to find people that were further along than I was, that I could ask questions, right? As I moved up and as I was pulling my team up, I needed, because my team, right? The idea is you get your team, closer to you as you're moving on this journey. You got to have somebody in front. So that's kind of what I was doing, and I found myself in the audience.
I don't want to. They can barely hear you, Deshaun. Oh, I'm not sure if they can barely hear me because I have a loud voice.
Right, so let's turn this up a little bit. Do I have it right?
I don't
I'll
know.
mute you. So
DMAC, if you can,
Right.
like in
we'll try
my
this.
soft.
Let me move the mic down a little bit. Hopefully that's better. I turned it up.
Deshaun, it says that you're
And
always quiet,
over here.
Deshaun. Don't be. This is the
Yeah.
first time in
I'll
ever that
figure it out.
Deshaun
I
is.
think I need to move my mic or do something.
Yeah, I think you can't hear me either.
Wait, no, I can't
This
hear
is the
you. What did I just
yeah,
do? Oh,
this
did
is
I
the
mute
first
you?
time anyone has
What
ever
happened here?
said that Deshaun is quiet. That's the cutest thing
Right
ever.
there.
I am here because
I
Deshaun is
can't
never
hear you.
quiet. He always has an opinion.
Oh, there we go. So I hear you.
Mhm.
I don't know if my mic is up.
We all can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. I can hear you just fine, but the audience can't, and that matters. So you were saying in your journey
Yeah.
up and how that works.
This is what right. Like there's things like you can see some things,
Mhm.
you know, like as we're going, you can see something, but there's some things that you just they're out there, but you just don't have any visibility to them. Well, anyways, I found myself in the audience, and you were talking about Steel Toe.
Yep.
And we were doing this, you know, microservice architecture with Spring Boot and Spring Cloud. And one of the things that we needed was
I think you need to take a moment and tell people what Steel Toe is.
Okay,
because
so
it's not as popular as Spring. Like if I say Spring, everyone, even my mom knows about it. They're like, "Oh my God, Robert's doing Spring again."
so like, I'm going to draw a microservice architecture, right?
Mhm.
And there's some things that we did that we came up with, that the Spring team came up with. One of them is like service discovery, right? So we have like Eureka, you know, the Netflix OSS Eureka stuff, where hey, we want a way to be able to find out where all the other instances of these different apps are.
Mhm.
Another one is like Spring Cloud config. So I want to be able to have my configuration in a Git repo so that I can do like versioned releases of configs. So if I make a change or I bust something, I've got a simple place to go. So I'm going to put these things up here. Eureka, Spring Cloud config. What else were we like pulling in at that time?
Hystrix, circuit breaking.
Right?
Yep.
And yeah, and we had the Spring Cloud Gateway is what we were using, which the nice thing was is that worked across. I could still use my gateway to route traffic for the .NET side or the Spring side. So this was all Spring Cloud, right? Spring Boot, Spring Cloud. And that's what we were doing. For product number 1, this is what we were doing. And product number 2, we needed some help. And we had another person in the community that was .NET. But we had already built this, our small little team, and they weren't going to be an employee, but they knew how to get us that extra step to do the next thing. So they were going to come in, and we wanted to integrate with the .NET code, just like we would with everything else. So we made a config change. It was cool. That .NET could do discovery and find all the other applications, and the other applications that were on the Spring side, they could find the .NET. Because, right, in years past, and in my career, there was literally a time in my life where .NET infrastructure was in a different data center than this Java infrastructure, and you had different infrastructure managers and different support teams. And you're doing Java, you got to send a ticket to a different place, and that was frustrating and confusing. And then Cloud Foundry came along, and all of a sudden, the infrastructure didn't matter. We were deploying .NET and Spring, and we're deploying all the places, and we had the same interface, and we were deploying it the same way, and everything was consistent. And in the same org and space, we had .NET workloads and Spring Boot workloads, and we got there because of the help that we got from you, because Steel Toe allowed us to do those same things.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Steel Toe is the Spring Boot for .NET, and at the time,
it's a Spring Cloud for .NET.
Spring. Oh, I put
because .NET is frameworky and
it does. I mean, it is a framework. But I think that is that's the thing that people like don't realize is that this is the first time we were working together, and Steel Toe kind of was giving us those cloud native tools. Back when was it .NET Core was what 1.1?
Yep.
It was a baby. It wasn't like what it was today, and and then with that we were starting to deploy apps on the same instance of Cloud Foundry. Didn't matter what language you brought, and it felt like finally we had open source homogeny, I guess you would say, where I could go do my .NET apps, and you can go do your Spring Cloud apps, and it was
we
great.
weren't fighting, right? We weren't fighting about, oh no, you got to do this way. No. We had a consistent way of engaging, and that was a big part of it. So I get the goosebumps here. It drove into some really amazing things that we did beyond that. But I was a customer. I was in the community. I wasn't on the DevRel vendor side at all. And you helped. You were this person that was in front of me and the .NET expert that I went to college with. You were that person that kind of helped us get closer and move a little bit further down our journey from some of these tools that we had no experience in. And on a, I had some baby, introductions to Cloud Foundry and understood, but you kind of helped us all. And then the rest of my team, you kind of helped us all go on this journey together. So you're out front.
And I actually never thought I was out front, and I think that's the weird part is that you don't realize that there's people in front and behind you like this. With that, so I mean, but thank you.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I have to say though is, even with the journey you and I have had with our coding and our coding careers, is this gave us the ability. It wasn't Java versus .NET like it has been in time past. It became, I'm pro .NET. It doesn't mean I'm anti Java. And that I could be pro one thing, it doesn't mean I'm anti another. I've actually translated that to the rest of my life, right? Like, I love ramen. It doesn't mean I hate spaghetti, right? It does. I just love ramen, right? And so I think that is one of the things that it's where my coding career changed, like my outlook on things. Like, I could be pro one thing, but it doesn't mean I'm anti another. And so Deshaun will talk Java all day. That's great. I love it more, but it's just not like, I could do it if you wanted me to, but I'd probably just defer back to .NET.
Yeah, right. That's another conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you probably agree. We can do just about anything we want in any language. That doesn't mean that one language is better at a certain thing than another language. One language is custom fit. You can get there.
I would say in the context of, I think I would say it's in the context of what you're doing, right? Yeah. So like, so if you think about it, there's times when you're programming, like so I work in the Linux world, right? So I see a lot of what goes on in Linux, and things are written in C and C++, and now even Rust, right? Because it has to be performant, and where nanoseconds matter. But when it comes to our business application, right? Because those are engineers engineering Linux, and I'm notorious for saying this. I'm a developer, right? I use code to solve business problems. Engineers use code to create business problems, and so my engineers at work hate me for saying that, but I'm notorious. I'll say that. But when it comes to that level, you wouldn't use .NET or even Java, right? Because it just doesn't have context to it. But if we're developers and we're writing our code and we're solving business problems that we do, it doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't. As long as you're writing great code, well-documented code. And I say great code at the time, right? Because anytime you look at your code
at the time,
it's always great code at the time. Like if you can deliver great code at that time, and it's concise. And when you think about it, what does that mean? And Deshaun and I have talked about this before. Like when you're leading developers, or you're developing anybody as an individual, is when I used to judge code. Is it perfect, right? Are you using everything? Is it elegant, right? And now I do it differently. Like when I look at code, if I gave that to a junior developer at a Tech Elevator, which is a coding boot camp, could they take that and run with it? And if they can't, you did wrong, right? What's that?
Thomas says, my girlfriend does .NET and I still love her.
I mean, I love her for doing .NET, and I don't even know your girlfriend. I can say that.
When I look at code, and this is something new, but it kind of relates to what you said. Like the code was great for that day. Like when you pushed it to production, it was the best that you knew. You knew a certain amount of things for that day.
Mhm.
Linux came out 30 years ago, but nobody is running the first version of Linux. Because why? Because it's exposed. It's not that the bits went bad. It's not that the code has changed, but they didn't know all the things. They didn't know the way that the bad guys were going to exploit it. They didn't know that the infrastructure that was going to run was going to change and evolve. So even though you might still be running the same hardware that you did in 1993, right? I still have that same computer. You might be running that same hardware. You're not running that same version of Linux, or I hope that you're not. At least not if it's connected to anything. So when I look at software today, the thing that I look at that, and those that have been following along, is how easy is it to maintain automatically? How easy is it to do the automatic updates? How easy is it to upgrade? Because I don't want to look back. I don't want to go look back.
What gets me, and I see this, you see it more with the Java frameworks, less with the Spring frameworks, is how easy is it to upgrade? And it comes down to like the individuals maintaining those framework codes to allow those like code bases to be modernized, right? And that's like the hard thing. So you can say, oh, how easy is it to maintain? But also it's like you're wholly dependent on, how hard is it to upgrade, right?
Like
From one to.
Do you do this?
Ooh, like you don't want to see my computer. It's probably
I do this regular. I do it on the stream. Like, look, hey, there's new stuff coming out all the time, and you know what's
every
nice?
day. Mhm.
Watch this. I'm in the middle of the stream. I'm upgrading. I don't care. I didn't read the list. I've done this so often. You know what makes me feel good is that this is just easy.
Yeah.
It's this easy, and I feel a little bit more confident now.
Yeah, and I think when you're at home and you're doing this, it's one thing, but like doing this at work, it's become daunting. Like remember, were you there? Like I remember from like, was it 2.2 and .NET Core to 3 was a breaking change, and like I was honestly mad at Microsoft for that, and it took a while to get over. Because there was no nice upgrade path, and now they're very cognizant of it. So upgrading is a lot easier, and you can kind of keep in the forefront. But when you're managing code, especially a framework, oh my god! But like just breaking change, don't break the change. Like,
yep.
Is that why we still have Java 8? Like, I don't know. Like, can I ask that question?
Here's the thing. So again, the reason why I look at things this way is because of Spring. Because of things like this, right? When Spring framework went from 5x to 6, there was a breaking change. You have to use Java 17.
Ooh.
That was you had to rebase to Java 17. Spring Boot from 2.x to 3.x, you had to get on Java 17. So what do you do? Like, how do you do that? If you don't have an easy way to do something like this, that becomes really hard. It becomes really tricky. But we understand the whole like semantic versioning. We understand there are going to be times where we've got to make that major change, and there's going to be some breaking changes that are implied when you go from a 2.x to a 3.x. It's implied there's going to be breaking changes. But
yeah, and I think we forget about that. Like when in semantic versioning, when you go from like 2.2 to 3, you have to expect it. It's just painful when you're surprised.
Have you seen this? Have you seen
No,
these demos open reality?
No. What is this?
Here's the thing. Like, I literally do these types of demos all the time. Thomas made a little meme because I talk about it all the time. So I'm a Spring developer advocate. We had the Spring framework 5.x to 6.x breaking change requires upgrade to Java 17. Like just that alone, right? That's the big thing, right? Jonas is over here saying, I want Java 17 so bad, right? So that Once you get to Java 17, then you can upgrade to Spring Boot. Then you can get all the other amazing stuff. So
Yep.
I show this demo at a minimum 20 times a week. All right, so it's quick. I'm gonna do the short version. Actually, I'll do the long version. We got time. Like, we're not on any schedule. Let me see.
I was going to say, I was doing laundry and my phone went off when this live stream hit, and I just asked if I could come in and join. I said, do laundry or talk about coding. Yeah, you know where I'm going to be.
Yeah, tough decision. So this I'm building with Java 8. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it on autoplay here. Demo magic, right? So I'm gonna start with Java 8, and I tell the jokes because I want other people to be able to give this story. Just Java 8, maybe that's where Jonas is at. And then I build a Spring Boot 2.6. You can't build those anymore from the initializer, so I got a clone one. And then I just start it up, and I'm showing you, like, hey, like, I get it. You're using Java 8. You're stuck on Spring Boot 2.6 or 2.7, and your apps work, right? So I'm validating that it's up and working. I take this little metric, like capture how much memory it's using at that point in time, and then I stop it. And this is the same demo that my son did with me in Montreal last week.
Oh, nice.
And he came up and he got to click and drive and all that kind of stuff. And he says, yeah, we don't want to do that. We don't do that in our house. So there's a recipe, upgrade Spring Boot 3.2. It's a Java program that knows how to upgrade my code. That's what Open Rewrite is. And they have this catalog for all sorts of things. But let me go back. That one knows how to go from 2.6 to 2.7, 2.7 to 3.0. Java code that takes my application through the progressions to get it onto Spring Boot 3.2. And now I'm on 3.2.
So, all right. Yeah. So I want to interrupt you because this sounds too good to be true.
It does.
With this, it does, because it has to be. There's no way. I'm calling shenanigans here. No, it's literally that. Do you have to like go in and like modify and tweak, put eyes on some of this code? Like, what about unit tests? Because like I'm a big stickler for tests. I mean, does it upgrade those too?
Yeah, it does. So depending, you have all of these things, and you can pick and pull, and you can stack them the way that you want to stack them. So you can say, hey, I want to upgrade to Java first. Okay. And just upgrade your Java version. When we go from Java 11 to Java 17, the package names change, but none of the functionality in what used to be javaox.lib, javaox.server, etc. They just changed the names because of Oracle license thing. In order to make Java open source, yes, we'll allow you to do this, but you have to change the name from javaox to Jakarta. So that's really the only thing you have to do. So you can go from 11 to 17. The only thing you've got to do is change those package names to get it.
Okay.
But then you get all the other benefits of the new stuff that was included in Java 17. There's more, but they didn't take away anything. The only thing they took away from Java 11 to 17, the LTS releases, was the javaox name. All the functionality is the same.
It was a namespace
search
change.
replace. Search replace. Yep, that's it. For those things. That's the only thing to make it as easy as possible. But Java now, they committed to coming out with a new Java version every 6 months. So thank you, Oracle. Thank you, JDK. Thank you, JCP, and the community behind Java, because they're doing amazing things. Right? Every 6 months. Well, the Spring Boot team said, hey, well, if you guys are coming out with a new version, we want to help our community. We want to have a new Spring Boot version every 6 months. So here's where we are. So the Spring team.
Yeah. How does that work? So like if the Java team is releasing, let's say January 1st, where's the Spring Boot team?
So let's just take the latest release. This was like September 18th when Java 21 came out. So Java 21 right now, we're 3 months in, right? Today's the 17th. Tomorrow, Java 21 is middle age. It'll have been out for 3 months. And Java 22 is in the oven. You can get early access to Java 22, but Java 22 is going to be out in March.
All right, so we're saying in like 5 to 10 years, like Java will be at like version 101.
Yes, it's
wow.
So look at this. So they came out Spring Boot team, which had early access to a bunch of these features because they are like this, right? So one of the ones is like the Project Loom, the virtual threads. Like you had early access. You'd had to flip a switch to say, yes, allow early access to that. And we supported that with Spring Boot 3.1, I believe.
Okay.
Spring Boot 3.2 came out November 23rd.
So
just a little bit behind.
So let me ask. So first of all, was this the original topic of your stream today? Like, did I crash it and ruin?
The way that I'm doing these is like I don't have an agenda. I don't have a schedule.
Oh, okay,
When I'm
even better.
streaming, it's like, look, we're gonna go wherever the conversation takes us. This is a DevOps community thing. Is like the conversation's over when it's over. We're gonna go wherever it takes us. Because of who showed up, I did a little recap of what I was doing this week. And Jonas, this guy, Jonas was here all week, and he's new, and I'm super happy that he's here. But I didn't stick the landing on Friday. I was trying to build this thing. I'll tell you about it in a sec, but it didn't work. I had something wrong, and Jonas sent me a message on Saturday. He's in Oslo. He sent me a message on Saturday. He's like, "Hey, this URL, it might be the issue that we ran into." He's like, I didn't take notes, but you might want to look at this.
Shit. I mean, Jonas might have to come. He might have to come to like when I'm going to start live streaming me building content for Rancher Academy. Like it's just like when something breaks, I'll have Jonas help fix it. Like that's nice. That's awesome.
And the nice thing about doing things live is like I got a lot of help from the audience along the way. Good insights and all that kind of stuff. Other people that were actually reading the docs as I was trying to like race through. And look, we get an audience from all over the world, and it's fun. So I'm just trying to, when I'm streaming, I'm trying to look how it all ties together. I'm somewhere here. Of course, I'm trying to catch up to you, Robert.
No, let's say this guy is way too humble. This guy's way too like those dots are reversed. Like he's way like I'm down. Like if you guys
doing this together.
If you look at me at LinkedIn, look at him on LinkedIn. Deshaun, don't let him fool you. He is the real deal. Like I come to these things because I learn things.
So this is what we're doing. The whole point is like I'm trying to set aside time every day during the week, right? I like hanging out with my family and stuff, but this was bothering me. So I said, hey, I'm going to come on and I'm going to continue working on this stuff because Jonas helped me out, and I was excited to do more because somebody in the community is like, hey, here's a tip, and it absolutely worked, and now it's working and things are great. I wanted to do more because I got a lot of good feedback, and I want to share. I want to be available for people because we didn't have this. Like when I met you, I was having to go to a user group, another state on the other side of the border.
I mean, well, okay, hold on. To be fair, that's only like a 10-minute drive, 15-minute drive for you.
47 miles.
Is it that far?
Yeah, 47 miles.
Oh, I thought you were closer.
Nope.
Okay.
And if you recall, there was a snowstorm that day, and we didn't have a good audience.
No, it was an ice storm, and
we picked it up.
Yeah, we did. I remember that.
Some barbecue, as we should in Kansas City, but there was a snowstorm, so it was. That's what I had to do. But now, I want to do this. I want to be available. Others did it for me, like especially during the pandemic and you and all the other stuff. Like there's people that were just like making themselves available to ask questions. I wish I had that. Right. I wish I had that.
Community has come along. It's honestly, it's come a long way. I mean, I have people in the community who my wife thinks they correct me, but they actually just keep me honest, and I'll make mistakes, and because we're all human. And if you think you're not going to make a mistake, that's cute. But I have people even on my community who will say, "Hey, I took your K3S basics course, and you're wrong on these ports."
Yep.
And I'm not mad. Like I misspoke, right? And it's because like you got a lot of things going on. I have content. I have employees now, so I have to I got to do the management thing, and that's a whole other thing when in the DevRel space when you have to manage employees. But when you have more responsibility, you do make mistakes. And how I run my team is we all do the same thing. I just do extra. We all do the same work. Like I don't ask anything of my employees that I wouldn't do, but the community will correct me on things. And they're almost a godsend. And like someone, I don't take their criticism because usually what I get is a DM on Slack. The if you go to slack.rancher.io, that's the Slack where I hang out on, and people will just like they'll say, "Hey Rob," they'll DM me something nice like, "Hey, you messed up on that live stream you did. By the way, you misspoke." And I'll come back and I'll I thank them, and I go back to the community and I apologize and say,
Rancher.slack.io.
It's slack.rancher.io.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's where I normally hang out. I'm less, I don't want to say less on the coding side because I still code. I code for fun. And I code in different contexts. Like I will write Rust code to write policies for Kubernetes. And that's just like a policy is something like, hey, you can't over provision this pod, right? Or you can't use swear words in naming your pod. Remember that in Cloud Foundry where people would just be like, they would name their it wasn't called a pod, but they would name their container. They'd have their container names and they would just put,
it was an automatic, like give me 4 words, right?
Yeah, and like you can pull what was that, or you can you can name it, and then in the logs, like the developers would like put things like I don't know, like Deshaun smells.
Nice.
It was never nice things, and that's why like when I write those. So I do write code from time to time. I think I'm talking at Civo Navigate and not doing a shameless plug here in Austin, and I'll be talking about writing Rust policies for KubeBoard. Now, Civo Navigate if you guys don't know what Civo is is like it's like a mini cloud. They're gonna kill me for saying this. It's not like a GCP or AWS kind of like, but it is a cloud platform it's just nice. Like they have like K3S as a service. So when I have to go do a demo in a northern country, or I don't have like I don't have access to my home lab, I look at them. I'm like, all right, that's where Dad's going. Like that's what I want to do. That's what I'm gonna put my stuff on there. So that's what that is. And I'm not plugging them. That they don't pay me. I'm not an employee, but it's just so nice because they use my products and projects, so I know the interface. I'm like, oh look, it's great and it works.
So the other thing is like all of these things, and so I went through this demo. I was showing you, this is the upgrade, the demo that we were running. I show like, hey, we were on Java 8. We started up faster. And then we did the native stuff that you get with Spring Boot 3 and above.
Yeah.
We compiled it to the same native code that your C++, your C, your Rust is being compiled to. Native for that operating system, that architecture, optimized for that operating system architecture. So when we do our dueling laptops, and you remember the thing you always got to come back with is like, well, yeah, but mine's running in 64 megabytes of memory. Haha. Right. So now we're here. Right. And that's
I mean, I could, I can switch it up and just go straight to Rust, and then we can go one for one. I mean, if you want to do that, but my Rust coding skills are not as well as my .NET, and because there's something nostalgic for me, like doing .NET. Like there's this weird nostalgia that I get, and I wanted to, for your audience, I don't know if they know. So what Deshaun and I used to do, and I would love the opportunity to do this again with you, is we would build the same app in an audience full of people, half .NET, half Java, and we would take turns talking. And I would go up there and I would build my section of the application. We're building the same application, right? Exactly. The same functionality. And then I would stop and go out and help people in the audience. And then he would go talk to the Java side and just go, this is how I'm going to build my stuff. And it was great because it was like this, it broke down that whole barrier. And I think when people see that nowadays, I don't know if it would have the same value, but back then that was so much fun.
It's still pretty sick. So
is it?
It is. So you just think about that. We built the exact same application in 2 different languages. We were talking to the exact same instance of the database, right? For the finale, right? Everybody had their own instances, but then we would grab the Java version, throw it into the same space against the same database. And your requests, right? As you're making requests, it didn't matter which application, it was working. It was to the exact same instance of the database. It worked the exact same way. Yes, your container image at that time was a little bit smaller.
It ran a little bit faster.
But mine was way cooler and less lines of code, and I always finished way before you did.
I mean, that's true. But that was just more.
But it was dueling laptops, and it was funny, right? It's like the dueling pianos. Literally, that's like where a lot of this excitement.
And to give people like context, we had like both of our laptops were facing each other. Like they were like there's two laptops just like sitting on the table, and I would run up and do my thing, and we were just coming back
on
and
the
forth
same screen.
Oh yeah,
right. And the first one, literally, there was 100 people in the room. Half of them, ish, were Java, and half of them were .NET, and it was so much fun.
And I think I wish companies would see that, because there's markets that are not tapped. Now I've seen some companies, and I'm not going to mention them here, where they'll hire whatever's the cheapest developers, right? Oh, .NET developers are cheaper. We're moving to .NET, right? Because it's a microservice. If you got to rewrite it, it's not that big of a deal. And now like companies are embracing both, and I love the fact that it's whatever's in the market. Like if the city of, I don't know, let's say Peoria, Illinois, because it's not close to you or me. If Peoria had an influx of .NET developers, and companies there were like, heck yeah, let's just hire them, and they're going to be building services for us in our cloud platform, we'll take that, right? Because you're not retooling people anymore, because you don't need to. They have front end Angular.
I think that was the last time that I wrote like a front end from
it was Angular. Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, it was Angular. We don't use Angular anymore. I don't know who uses Angular. I'm sure there's somebody who's going to find me on Twitter and trash me on your stream, and they'd be like, "Oh, you use Angular every day."
Yeah, Vue. Yeah, a lot of people are other using Vue. I think
Vue is very awesome. I do like Vue. HTMX is the new hotness that I you know what? And I only like HTMX only because the DevRel teams around that are they're doing an amazing DevRel job. And they are causing a stir and a half, and the React developers. I know. There you go. Here we go. The Java front end. Thomas,
so
please.
Thomas has a framework for Timeleaf, which is one of the ones that we allow or that we support on Spring Boot. That's an HTMX plugin for Timeleaf. So you can plug in and get this powerful HTMX functionality using his framework, his plugins.
I
knew that Thomas was going to be around. Like this is like you've touched on some stuff. It's hot.
It is hot.
Thomas is at the front of that.
But the trolling that the HTMX DevRel team is doing against the Angular dev, oh my god! Like so for you guys in the audience and gals and everybody in between, the DevRel community is slightly different than the developer community, right? Because we're creating content. We're not different. We're different. We're not better. I'll make sure I'll say that. But in the DevRel sense, they've come out and they're playing a game that we've never seen, and I can't get enough. It's like I'm eating popcorn, reading Twitter or X. I can't call it X. I'm sorry. I can't. But like you read the HTMX. They are just DevReling the hell out of, excuse me, I'm sorry for swearing. They are DevReling the heck out of the React guys and gals. And it's brutal. And I absolutely love it. Like, I'm like, if I can find like the DevRel team, like these individuals to say, hey, I do this show called Rancher Live. Would you like to come on and just talk about how you're doing this? It is. And when I'm looking at it and they're coming out and it's like, hey, we're like faster and smaller and we give you more functionality. What do you have, React? And everyone's like, it's
Ted used to work with him.
Oh, look at this. Someone used to, okay.
So here we are. I'm just lucky to be here. Lucky to have all of you here on Sunday and have this kind of conversation.
I know my family's watching Home Alone out there, and you can hear my kids laughing. It's like the original Home Alone, and they're like, "Dad, you want to watch that?" I'm like, "I've seen it 90 times. Let me come in and hang out with my peeps."
Yep.
All right, so let me ask like, can I ask the audience a question? Am I allowed to do that, Deshaun?
absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
right, HTMX, right? I'm following the DevRel hype from the people who are on the ground doing the work. I mean, is it something? Because I've trolled our Rancher engineers and said the Rancher UI needs to be HTMX, and it didn't go over well. Is it something I should give it like an honest like try? Put it in the chat. I can read the chat. I cannot comment, but if you guys put it in the chat, should I try HTMX? Like, is this something I should like put some time behind?
Why can't you comment?
Give them a moment because I know they're gonna be like, no, yes.
Why can't you comment? You should be able to.
Oh, I can't. I have to actually see Ted's actually 100% HTMX. I can't comment because I have to join the chat in my instance. I'm logged into my instance and I'm joining yours. So that's okay. So Ted's saying yes. I think I'm gonna have to give this a whirl. Like I might have. So I have to update my talk for Civo Navigate.
Which is tomorrow. So might as well just like convert it.
Yeah, no, Rust doesn't work that way. Like Java's like I just looked at how Java is easy to update. Like Rust does not work that way. Rust is painful in a good way. Like when you think, I'm talking to developers, right? And everyone in between. When you think you are good at your game and you want to be humbled, do Rust. Like it will put you in your place really quickly, right? Because no one will ever go back to C or C++. They're like, oh, I don't know this is not that. But you can grab Rust and effectively start writing decent code. When you have to start worrying about memory, and Deshaun, when's the last time you worried about memory? Like honestly.
Well, back when I was at Redis, right? It comes up.
Yeah, every once in a while. With Rust, I'm worried more about memory.
I just did a demo about it, right?
Oh, okay. When you worry about memory, it is a whole different thing. Like it just humbles you very quickly. I think developers, like when you think you're good at your game, go grab a different language, except for Ruby. I don't like Ruby. I will never like Ruby.
Right on.
Okay. Ted.
So I'm learning about HTMX a little bit here.
Do you remember Helios? So I brought this up to one of our front end developers at work, and they didn't remember it. They were like, what is that? And I'm like,
I didn't remember it. Like it's still.
I think I felt old. Like they're like, I don't remember Helios, and I'm like, okay, hold up. I'm like, let's talk about it. I had to take him down that, but okay. So now Ted's got me now really interested in this. It was the thing. Yeah, I know. Like it was more shocking that someone didn't know what it was at work. And I was like, I honestly had am I too old for this game? Like, am I that disconnected? But apparently not.
So, and maybe again, I've got these buckets of things that are in my head, but like when I think of this, and then nobody really did much with it and perverted rest of right, like I worked with teams that were 100% Helios, however you want to say it, and there was value that they didn't have to. They got a lot of it for free, right? You were able to, get it, especially with Spring. You were able to get this kind of self-documenting, tree and access to code, to data, right? This kind of like data-first approach. And in my head, the things that Helios did above and beyond REST is very similar to what like GraphQL does, right? In not similar, but just in the way that your schema's there.
The way it solved the problem. Like it solved the problem. Like the way it solved that problem,
right?
That you couldn't do. Like it's not necessarily it was better or different. It's different, obviously, but it solved the same type of problems that what like you would have.
Yeah, right. Is that right? Does that make sense? That I put them in that bucket? That they're both kind of a better way of doing REST?
So talking about GraphQL, our LMS platform is now giving me a GraphQL implementation where I can start coding against. And I realized at work that because of my role, I'm not allowed to actually use it. That somebody else has to do the integration with their GraphQL API. And it was so heartbreaking. It was like a stab in the heart. I'm like, oh, I can do this. And they're like, no, you're not allowed to. And it was the point in my career. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm a director. I can do this. And they're like, no, that goes to another team manager super platform. You have to put that request in. And it hurt Deshaun. It honestly did.
Okay. Thomas makes the comment, Hadios, doesn't make much sense if you split it from the presentation layer, in his opinion. So for me, I didn't do a lot of front end stuff. Like we kind of went down this path, but I wasn't doing a lot of front end stuff. So what I got from Hadios was I had access to all the stuff I needed without really having a front end.
Okay.
Like I could just call the back end and I could do things. Right? FYI, Hadios is Hypermedia as the engine of application state. Yes. And is a term Hypermedia. It's less intimidating. It is. And it's easier to say. We all understand when we say Hypermedia. Yeah.
So I'm curious. I'm going to have to go find, like, Thomas did a talk on this. I'm going to have to go find. I'm going to go find this talk. I'm going to watch it.
He's a really good presenter, too.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
maybe he should be here instead of me.
He has been.
Okay.
We're chatting. I miss you. Like, let's hang out. The split between front end and back end teams is what's led to overcomplicated projects as far as the best. Oh, and Ted is definitely one to talk about this. So Ted is a big fan of mob style programming, the pair programming stuff. He does it in public. He does these ensembles where you get a bunch of people focus on one thing. And I speak to my background when one of the best experiences, or actually had multiple of these experiences, were when we had this small group that did everything. And we did the rotations, right? We had everybody talking to everybody in this team, and we all did enough of the front end, and we would rotate and pair with each other, so we were all keeping up to date, and that was the best. And so it was these types of engagements that were the most valuable. Hold on.
Oh boy.
I have the kids and stuff are here. They make
no.
And I'm super excited about all of it.
So I want to touch on what Ted said here. The split between front end and back end teams is what led to overcomplicated projects. That right there. And the reason why I touch on this is because they've put such an emphasis on front end and back end developers, or full stack developers, to try to overcompensate that. And in my humble opinion, that has ruined things. And so instead of that triangle that you just drew right there of collaboration, instead of having that better collaboration between front end and back end teams, we overcomplicated with that split, because when we went to a full stack developer, we were asking them to do so much and have such a high cognitive load that the people who could handle it were leaving for higher paying jobs elsewhere, and then leaving the rest of us in the dust, right? Like, oh, hold on the same team. See that right there. Right, that's it. 100%. Like the idea of having that one person, because like even in my community, like I'll have a person who's an expert on storage, and then I'll have someone who's an expert on Kubernetes. And when you see that, there's a big difference. And when you ask that one person to do everything, it's almost impossible, because storage is speeds and feeds, right? Like they care about that, and you can never be wrong because you can never lose data. And then Kubernetes has another level of complexity right on top of that. And I think that needs to be I don't want to address, but just accepted. And I think what Ted said here, front end and back end experts should be on the same thing. Yes, like, hey, here, how are you going to present this up? How are you going to like consume this on the back end? I love this.
Yep. Yeah. Good stuff.
So we're close to the bottom of the hour, and
This will all
bottom
game
of the
still
hour.
happening.
Oh,
So,
like, is your team still playing?
2:30 my team. Yeah, the Chiefs are playing right now. Like I live right down the street from Patrick Mahomes. They're playing right now. But this was more important to me. I had
Okay.
this thing in my head. So let's circle back because I had a question. I don't know if they're still around, but I had this question. They saw a state machine, and it was Andre. I could see state machine on your list. Do you know if I can orchestrate a couple of lambdas using state machine? Is that easy to debug locally? So state machine, and I think so. Yes, I think that this is something that's doable. And here's where I'm at. So these are the projects that I worked on last week. This Twitch metrics and YouTube video event listener. We made progress, and Jonas helped me get through. And today, right, as I was coming in, like thinking about like what could I work on next week, I wanted to upgrade some of these things. I want to go make it a little bit better. One of the things I'll ask you is like I enjoy doing the live streams, and hey, I'm making some cool things, and
Mhm.
and I had a lot of people that were interested, and people that are going and looking at the repo. What I also have is I have a bunch of domains, and I think I know the answer, but what I'm going to do is I'm trying to find the easy way. That's a different. I'm going to draw a different timeline here. Right, I'm doing my live streams, and I'm doing these daily,
Mhm.
weekdays, 8:30 to 10:30 ish. So I get a week of content, and I made a couple of cool things. Right, like on Tuesday I finished something, and then on Friday I finished something.
Mhm.
So the idea is I could go back, and even though it took 2.5 streams to finish this and 3 streams to finish this, I could go back and just recap and do the metrics thing as a video. Like, hey,
Mhm.
you want to build something like this? Here it is, and just do like the step by step without the interruptions, and just do that, and it would be literally I could do it in 15 minutes. And again, and for this, so what I'm thinking is, right, this is really, it's just a webhook listener, right? But I could literally like turn around and talk about all the challenges and stuff and build it from scratch in 15 minutes. Like that's
Mhm.
worthwhile, right? So even though I've got these live streams, I could go back and I could build these things. And when I don't have like the high production quality, it would probably take me an hour to go back and just like recap what I did and just build
Yeah.
another one.
So can I give you
Yeah.
my so if you worked for me and I was your boss, I would say you're not telling a story. Like these streams are great,
Mhm.
but anytime you develop content, you want to tell a story, right? And oh, hello from Russia.
We're
Hello.
really lucky here. Like I'm
We
getting
are
folks from all
worldwide.
over to jump in and
So
hey, new folks, remember,
Mhm.
we don't have an agenda here. It's okay
Yep.
to interrupt, ask questions. We're not on a schedule. I'll make mistakes. Keep me honest. I just took that from
Yep.
Robert, but we're just
and
hanging out.
and we're going and to close off what I'm saying on that is that you're not really telling a story because there's no schedule. We're talking about anything. So if you're going to recap, take a recap and build a story to it, right? So we've kind of like you're think of it like you're Quentin Tarantino. You're Tarantinoing it. You're going back and forth on these like live streams because
Mhm.
we're able to. There's nothing scheduled, right? We can talk about anything,
Yeah.
but we need to be able to put them together and make Kill Bill Volume 1. I didn't say Kill Bill Volume 2 because it was terrible, but you see what I'm saying is you're
Mhm.
going with that. You want to Tarantino it, and give it a good Pulp Fiction with it, where you have all of those things. Now, you're not Tarantino. I'm not Tarantino. We obviously look better than Quentin, but you want to be able to tell that story. And so you're taking all this great content that you're building throughout the week, and then tying it into that story and into a beautiful recap, right? Where someone can come back and it's, asynchronous, right? It's going to be on YouTube without you being live. And then you can just go, hey, here's that story. Here's what I was doing. Here's that recap for the week that brings it together. You're circling. Go ahead.
All right. No, that's I'm connecting the dots. So if I spent an hour rebuilding these and just doing it on a video, no interruptions, just recording, like, hey, here's the stuff. And if I need to do edits, I can, but I can also probably just record it and do it and go from here's what I was working on, here's what I was thinking, here's what I did, and here's what I ended up with, and here's where I got help, and here you can take it, and now you have a way of capturing these metrics and connect all the dots. Then do the same thing. That's worth it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Plan?
Like I think that's how I
But tell the story, because then I can point back, like, oh, if you want to like play along and see how I'm doing things, this is where I created it, and you'll be able to see all the help and feedback that I got while I created it. And then I could add that as my card at the end of those videos, right? If people are going back and watching.
Like when you're going back and forth and you're telling that particular story, like what do you want someone to learn? Yeah. Like when I teach someone Kubernetes, right? What are those challenges that individuals might have with it?
So
all right.
Jitter Ted again. I get a lot of my inspiration from Jitter Ted. He's awesome at live streaming me and just thinking out loud and takes questions, and he's super brilliant. So he says editing live coding streams into a story is difficult. So I don't plan to edit the streams. I'm just gonna redo the code that I built during the streams. Yeah. Is that all right? And then I can talk about the streams, but I'm not going to edit that.
So I live in Ohio, and Ohio is the adopted home of Dave Chappelle. I'm not sure. Have you heard of Dave?
Yes.
You know who Dave is? Like he's our adopted son. Don't ever talk bad about. We will shoot you in Ohio if you talk bad about Dave Chappelle. We love him. He does no wrong to us. Yeah. But if Dave will do a handful of sets locally across Ohio, there's a couple clubs he goes to polish that content. Mm-hmm. And as a comedian, he will polish that content, and you will hear, sometimes you will go see him at two different clubs and he delivers the same content in different ways to see how he can polish it up. So I think if we put it in that context, whereas you are, our Dave Chappelle, right? And you're out there doing a live stream and you're seeing how that content works. And then you put it together into that Netflix special. And I think if you put it in that context, that might work. And I want to, Jittering Ted, I want your actually everybody. And call me out if that's not, if you don't feel that that's an appropriate way, where you're a comedian at a few different clubs, putting out the same content, working that out, and then getting that ready for that new thing, that's special.
So if you are a fan of Spring, right? And you don't even have to be a fan of Spring, right? You understand Josh Long, the first Spring developer advocate, has been doing this for over 10 years. He's got one-liners. Like he's got things that are like trademark brand full-on Josh. And one of them is start.spring.io. Right? And he tells us our joke, yeah. Start.spring.io. He didn't just come up with that, right? He workshopped that. He built that over, years to get it to where that point, what he's doing. And you do that. Like the more that you present in front of communities, the more that we just in life, right? Like you have your things, your go-to explanations, your go-to jokes that you have. And it comes with practice. And the funny thing is you brought up like comedy. I try not to do comedy. I'm not good at comedy, but when I brought my son to Montreal last week, and he's a fifth grader and he's a little ham. He added so much to the presentation with his little one-liners. Like when we were doing this, And
Mhm.
I was like, hey, so first we did this one. I was like, son, like 40% savings. You can imagine at scale. And then I go, like, I work with customers and I'm showing them how to save millions of dollars on their infrastructure. And he goes, $1 million? Like just as a fifth grader doing that, but it was so good the first time that we did it, like sitting here practicing. It was so good and so funny. And again, I get goosebumps when I get excited. Like it was so good that we put it in. But it just you workshop it. You do these things. Like we literally practiced the demos that we did in Montreal. We practiced it, and I recorded it.
All right.
You
All right.
should go watch. But that,
I don't want to. I hate interrupting you, but
yeah,
this made my day. Okay, not jittering Ted, but jittering Ted makes a good point. But
jitter Ted.
jitter Ted, I'm sorry. We do we have cloud money? No, we have Raspberry Pi money.
That's one of mine.
I freaking love that.
Yep, that's my
Oh my god, that right there, I have hyperscaler ambitions on a Raspberry Pi budget.
Yep.
I love that.
That's one of those lines here. I'm like, look, because like when I show this thing, like I can run one of these. I usually have a Raspberry Pi within arm's reach. This is a Raspberry Pi Zero 2. I know you got it.
Oh my god!
And
there's
I can
like a
only
whole
run one of
cluster
these.
way over there.
Yep, I can only run one of these on this. I can run two if I upgrade to Spring Boot 3.2 with Java. I can run two of those on here. But look at this. I can run 6 of those on this little thing. On this $15 computer, I can run 6 of those. So that's what I'm talking about. I don't have cloud money. I have Raspberry Pi money. So I need to maximize these things.
I love that. That's
And
right about now, it's funny because remember when we would put K3? No, I
put
work
K3s
for
everywhere. So let's go back. And let me show you all the stuff because I'm proud of it. I told you a while ago I was going to have the different flavors of everything.
Yeah.
But now K3s. This, yeah, K3s. K3. This is K3D. K3s. 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 All of these are running K3s. That is my default. That's what I'm doing. I figured out where I'm going to be and how I'm going to do things. And yeah, high five.
Which is funny because like I'm using more of Arcade2, which is downstream from our K3s, and I want to say it's not as big as Arcade1, and so I'm using that. But even on Raspberry Pis, I've now noticed that I'm just ramping up Podman or Container D on a base OS of, I don't know, like Micro OS or something, running on there, and I'm running a pod, or not a pod, but a container, excuse me, and that's just running. And so I'm finding myself going like, as long as the container runtime engine keeps that container running, I'm not putting more than one workload because it's a bigger, I'm making bigger workloads, but I'm not, depending on the size, I'm kind of stepping back from putting K3s or on everything and looking. I'm taking a holistic look at the hardware and the workload, going, do I really need that extra? Do I? And I'm questioning it now. Like I honestly am.
So Jonas is referring to. I think this is a project that I've shown you, right? Oh yeah, because it made a little bit of a buzz on the Twitter sphere. Was like the K3s in a cluster hat. So it's a Raspberry Pi with 4 02Ws. So that's out there. It does things. And the criticism against this, I don't know if you remember this. The criticism was, but that's not HA.
Oh my God, really?
And I was like, okay, but what if I have two of them? Like, is it HA then? What if everything that I'm doing is deployed like this? What if I'm deploying to 2 different clusters and this is the way I deploy things? Is it HA then? And is it more or less, what's more or less resilient? Right? If you've got one cluster that you're deploying, Kubernetes, and you're making those nodes HA and deploying the database and stuff with it, which I don't. I deploy without the HA features, capabilities on K3s. but I deploy it to multiple clusters. Which one's more resilient?
Okay,
I should throw
so
that out there.
yeah, all right, all right. So first of all, this is a controversial opinion, and I know your community is probably going to trash me for it, but not everything needs to be HA. It's okay for something to go down, right? And for the idea that someone goes, "Oh, it's not HA, it's not acceptable." That's not necessarily true, right? Because you can be HA, but how do you manage that in an air gap environment?
Yeah.
I want
So the thing is, like, you and I have so many of these conversations. We've been talking about these different things for years,
yep.
right? Like, yes, not everything needs to be HA or infinitely scalable, but I'll tell you what. My kids are never going to deploy active passive because when I'm here and I'm looking at, oh, you're giving me 2 of anything, and you're telling me that I can only run one of them. I can only take traffic on one of them, but you want me to pay for this over here? You want to give me this over here,
So
make me pay for this, but I can't use it?
I think what's funny is we've been friends for a long time, and I don't talk to you as much as I want to, or I believe I should.
But look at what we're doing now.
But we work
We pick up right where
at
we're
two. We work at 2 competing companies, and we can agree on this.
frenemies.
Like
Yeah.
the funny part about it is like we're 2 different companies. We agree on this topic, right? Like,
Yep.
hey, we're gonna be active passive. I'm like, I'm not paying for that.
I'm not. I can't. No. There's too much scar tissue here.
No, because you're on a Raspberry Pi budget. Like that's it. Like we're on a Raspberry Pi budget.
Yeah. So here's where we are.
Mm.
Here's something. Christopher, welcome, Christopher. Making my own cluster could be the holiday project I need to feel good about myself. My poor pies are just chilling in a drawer. Like, get those pies. So I'm in the process. I have pies that are not deployed. I'm working on that. But get those pies out. Deploy. You only need one. You can deploy K3S, which is my default. You can deploy K3S to one Raspberry Pi. A Raspberry Pi, even like a 3B plus. It's got the 64-bit.
I want to interrupt you because like what he said kind of bothers me, Chris. You don't need to deploy. You don't need a holiday project to feel good about yourself. Like please don't ever think that you're a great person. You know, as you are. We love everybody. So, but he's right. You know, I have 6 of them over there, and I might even make him HA, and I'm really looking forward to actually doing something over the holiday season with that. Not just letting him sit there. My son comes in and he's just like, can I borrow a Raspberry Pi? I want to do something. And I get it back. And it's like, it's still in physically good shape, but I'm like, why is the memory card not working? Like, I have no idea what he's doing.
Who knows?
And our sons are the same age, by the way. They're both 5th graders. And so they destroy tech. I guarantee they do.
But Christopher, if you're interested in going down this path, I'm here to help. Jonas over here, he bought the same setup. Here's my little bill of materials. So yeah, you can do it. You can set up a 5-node. Let's go take a look. Watch this. CUDA CTX. I have one of them ready. Cluster hat 00. Whoops.
Nope.
Hat right. Let's make it so we can see it pretty. The thing is, you'll notice that I'm using this older version of Linux because the provider of the cluster hat provided us with a Linux distribution. In order to use it from this Pi, I can use these as separate nodes. So I'm using this old forked version of Linux. So it limits me in some ways, but it's still cool. This is the Raspberry Pi 4, and these are those, the hat children of that device. But this whole thing, all in, it was like $135.
Yeah, and we call those
Raspberry Pi
agents. Those
agents.
are agents. That's it. We've changed the vernacular. Server or control plane and agents. That's what we call them. I'm not going to be upset that you're not using OpenSUSE, but it's okay. It's okay.
Where's the matter? So again, I'm consolidating because it was hard to keep track and do the upgrades of everything. Our friend Dormain will be happy that I'm running Rundeck. Rundeck is the tool that I used when I
Oh,
worked at Garmin. It's the
okay.
tool that I'm using to upgrade all of the infrastructure, all of these clusters, and all the infrastructure across mobile. And this is not everything. So I'm gonna have it used to I had 92 Raspberry Pis. I keep on getting more, so I don't have a good count right now.
Wait, wait,
But
wait, 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 wait. You have how many?
it was 92. That was the high
Okay,
mark.
so remember everybody, hold on. You remember when we couldn't get a Raspberry Pi and they were on like there was a shortage? Deshaun is the reason why Raspberry Pis like 92?
Yeah, that was the high
Um,
watermark.
I hate to say you have a problem, sir, but you might have a problem, sir.
No, because here's remember I had the big data center. I had the Dell R710s.
I remember.
I
I
got rid of
remember.
all of that and I replaced it with Raspberry Pis.
But
So,
92?
but those aren't all like Raspberry Pis. There's 3B plus. There's some 4. There's some 2
Oh my
GB ones.
gosh.
There's some 4 GB ones. There's some 8 GB ones. There's some. So this is where the number's coming down. There was some zeros
Hmm.
and some 0Ws. Well, these two are 32-bit, so I can't run. I can't run Spring Boot.
Oh, okay.
So I've been giving these away as I find them. So Robotech, who's here, she's one. It's boxed up. It's not in the mail yet. But I've been giving away my zeros and my 0Ws
Okay.
because they can't run the 64-bit
Mm.
OS. But I've got some 02s and some 02Ws, and then I have a 5 on the way.
Oh. Yeah,
So I got to do a recount.
yeah, 90 like I mean, I love you, but I think you have a problem.
So let's bring it back. So this
Okay.
has been wonderful. Not everything needs to be HA or infinitely scalable. Raspberry Pi budget, Cloud Dreams. One of the things that I did here is I show the demo. Right, let's go back to K3D Juice. I have all of my stuff here on my stream. Like these are the things. Like if you're hanging out here, you're gonna hear about Spring Boot, Spring Cloud. You're definitely gonna hear about Raspberry Pis, but also other ARM64 stuff because there's some really AI related topics that are really interesting these days. AI and infrastructure. And path to production, like these kind of things. So that's what you're in for if you're hanging out. And then I've got amazing friends like Jitter Ted and Robert that are gonna come and hang out too. It's always okay to interrupt. But what I did here on these projects was I'm deploying them locally. Right. So on my daily driver machine, you can see I've got Cloudflare D. So let's talk about this real quick. This is the way I operate. So it's not just Cloudflare D. I've got Deshaun-IO, but these are just Cloudflare instances. So on my laptop, this is my K3D. K3D juice. I've got these tenants deployed. And I use tenant because that's the terminology from Flux. So I've got Deshaun. I'm going to do it like this. Hello. Oh, I can't move that one. Hold on. Deshaun-IO and JavaGrunt-com. These are my tenants, right? If we're enterprise company, right? You have the different teams inside of your org that want to deploy their Big A app. I say Big A, right? Big A. Let me go back to this. Big A application. Little A. They want to deploy things. So Jonas comes in and he says, hey, I want to deploy my org. The way that I'm looking at things is you point me to your GitHub repository that has all of your code in it. And this is what I was literally doing when you and I first met. It was the same thing, the org kind of space. This is the org level. And then you had different spaces, dev, test, prod, etc. But you gave me some instructions on how to deploy your stuff. And all I needed was to just point me to your org and I'll take care of the rest. Because as a developer, all I want you to do is git commit. Right? Even though we talked about CF push, the CF push happened in there, but you didn't really care about it. Like once you saw what was happening, it was cool, but you weren't running git commit or CF push. But I want to give you this consistent thing. You point me to your repository, and the thing I'm gonna do for my folks, my subscribers and stuff, is I'm gonna let them give me a GitHub org, and we're gonna let them do like let's practice this. So Jonas, for example, I'm gonna pick on Jonas. Jonas is going to say, hey, here's my GitHub org, and I'm going to deploy it for him, much like the Heroku, here's my URL, deploy it. I'm going to deploy it for him, but it's going to be on Raspberry Pis. But his org is going to land, and I'm going to be able to move it across. So on my local machine, this is what I've done. I've said, hey, I've got it. And one of those things that I do is I set up Cloudflare D. So the way that my machine works, and I'll show you guys a cool demo here, is I say, hey, these guys have Cloudflare D, and what they're doing is they reach up to here and say, hey, if you're sending any traffic to Deshaun.io, this is where I'm at. It's air gapped, right? There's no port forwarding. This is on my machine. It's connected to the internet, but you can't get in unless I give you this way to get in. So I actually do it for both of these. Right, so if I add, and I can switch, and I can drop in different tenants, and I can remove them. So right now, this is acting kind of as my dev machine, right? Because I was working on these projects in the open, and I wanted to have my developer experience here. So this is how I deployed. This is what I was doing during the week. So right now, if you go to intro.deshaun.io, and I'm not going to do it, somebody else has to do it. Somebody else hit intro.deshaun.io, and you're going to see that because my computer called up to Cloudflare and said, hey, if you have traffic for intro.deshaun.io, I'll take it. And somebody's going to do that, but this is on my daily driver. I can't have a bunch of workloads running, so I don't want it running, right? Because people aren't using that. So somebody please, otherwise it's going to be really awkward. Somebody go to intro.deshaun.io, intro.deshaun.io. And hopefully what'll happen, there it is, thank you. It's scaled up. So it was deployed, but it was scaled to 0. This is one of the benefits that I get from K3s. I put Knative serving on top of it.
Sure.
I have a small footprint. It's tiny. I don't need a lot of infrastructure in order to run. I can literally run it on a $15 Raspberry Pi 2. And this is what I do. This is how I operate. So when I'm doing my development, this is what it looks like. I can have hundreds of these. And now I think I gave it a 30-second window. So now that it's been 30 seconds and nobody else is hitting it, it scales down. And I get all of those resources back.
So if you're live streaming and someone hits that
this is
2 dozen
on my
times,
live streaming computer.
Wow. That takes some guts. I have to say, I would be nervous and be I want to go down in the middle of a live stream, but you were living on the edge, my
so
friend.
Yeah, somebody will do it. Somebody will hit it a bunch of times because I have it scaling up at really low margins. So if there's 10 requests, I think I have 100 max, right?
Okay.
At the max, I have these settings, but it's all defined right here. It's all defined in this Flux repository. And this one's for demo purposes, but it's all defined right here where max scale up to 100. So every time it scales up, it adds 3, but it's got a 15-second window, and this is what it looks like. Right?
Jitter Ted said.
On the edge.
No. So
yeah, this is how I operate. But I did the exact same thing
Hmm.
with the other project that I did this week. So now I'm pulling it back to this Spring State machine and the questions that we had from. Let me go back and make sure. I think it was Andre, right? It was like, hey, like I'm here and we do live streaming. So Robert, like I think I introduced this to you a week or two ago. This idea of Duan, Duan, right? We did the lab every day, YouTube analysis assistant, right? And I showed this to Ted, and it's just a cool little project that he built. The idea is like we're doing a live stream, but I don't like to do post production work. That's not my jam. I like being on the live stream and being interrupted and those kind of things. But I build projects, right? I'm doing these projects, and that's cool. But when I'm done with the live stream today, I don't want to have to go and update things. Somebody might want to find it.
Hmm.
So what I did was I made this YouTube listener, and this is what I worked on this week. This YouTube listener, so that hey, yeah, YouTube. Let me show you. Actually, I've lost it. But when I started this live stream, I got an event. I got an event that said, hey, this video ID. So even though it's not done because it's a live stream, you get the video ID, right? The link that people go to, get a video ID, and that's cool. When I'm done, I guess when I'm done with the show, I'll get another event. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. But this thing, the idea was at the end of a live stream, I would send it over to the YouTube analysis assistant. Like I rewrote it. I took his example, I rewrote it. And what that's going to do, right, is I'm going to use Spring AI. Give me a summary, a description, maybe chapters, whatever, SEO tags. Like, hey, today we talked about K3S, K3D, Kubernetes. Like the things that we talked about, it'll pull those topics out. And it tells me like, hey, here's what was on your stream, so that I can go and put it with, if people are searching, they'll be able to find it. But also the thumbnail. This was like the coolest thing is I can have it generate the thumbnail image for like, hey, what do we talk about? Give me a cool image that, me and
Sure.
Robert, and it'll do it automatically. That's the magic part is I want this to just be done. So that when I click end stream, that I get an event, and then from that event I say, hey, here's the video ID. Go pull the transcript and figure out these things because AI, you are an expert content director or editor or whatever it is, whatever I put in the prompt. But I can modify it and I can keep on doing this. So this is one less thing I have to worry about as I go down this process. Remember, we were kind of talking about like as for anybody that's interested in doing live streams, right? It's fun to have this kind of engagement. It's fun to do things out in the open and learn out in the open. But for anybody that's doing that, wouldn't this be like a cool little project? Just be like, oh, I'm done, and now I get a like I'm not afraid to show these things, right? YouTube, something that automatically, and you can see where I used it. Something that automatically goes and it fills it in, right? This one here as an example. This one here is an example where it fills it in. It gives me the description. It gives me even a new title. It retitles it. It says, hey, here's a nice little thumbnail and cool. And now the funny thing is, look at like, you can kind of see a difference in, well, maybe in these two, like there's a visible difference. Like I published this one, this video was the one that like really sold me. I put it out here and it had some views and it had been out for 4 days and it only had 24 views. I did nothing else other than run it through Duan Lab every day. Let me point to him again. I ran it through this YouTube analysis assistant. I got a new description. I got SEO tags and I had it generate a thumbnail. That's it.
Wow.
I posted the links to that in the exact same places 4 days later. And now look. Overnight, it was like a 10x. It was almost 300 overnight.
Very
The exact
impressive.
same video, the exact same content, everything except it had a description, SEO tags, and a thumbnail. Right? Again, I try not to like worry about these numbers and stuff, but what a cool thing that I don't really care about and I don't want to like invest a lot of time in, but it's worth it to me to
Yeah.
invest in these cool projects that might help somebody else have fun streaming, right?
Hmm?
And so I'm doing it live. And that's the whole thing.
Well, I hate to do this to you,
Oh,
but I have to depart
okay.
because we're past 4. But I want to
Okay.
thank you and your audience for the opportunity. Very insightful for me. And so
Wonderful.
everyone have a happy Sunday. And Deshaun, I'm
You
sure I'll
too.
talk to you next week.
Wonderful.
And everybody else, I'll see you guys in the
Yes.
community.
All right. Thanks,
Bye.
Robert. I appreciate you. I'm gonna keep on hanging out and I'm gonna keep on going. So this is where we're at, right? Back to the state machine question. I did the same thing for like as I live stream. I had this Twitch metrics exporter. Uh, I didn't deploy it to production because I wasn't just doing that yet. But this idea where I can go ask Twitch's API for metrics, and one of those metrics is live viewers. Right? You always get on Twitch, you always get like a replay back, and they give you a nice, pretty graph of who or of how many people showed up. And that's cool if you want to just like have those graphs. But I thought it would be more interesting to show that and keep it in Prometheus, keep it in a time series database. So I built this thing. But now the funny thing is live viewers doesn't matter when you're not streaming, right? This is like streaming only. So there's other things like subscribers, right? People that are I don't know what the terminology is. I probably should, but on Twitch you get like this follower, people that follow. I think it's just follow, right? Oh yeah, there's two different things, right? Followers and then subscribers, right? People that pay, right? These numbers, these two numbers, I can go and get, and these numbers are going to be changing all the time, whether I'm streaming or not. I get followers that watch the video and then they click the buttons like well after. These numbers change all the time, right? So that's a different kind of graph that you might want, a different set of data. But this one really only matters when I'm live streaming. So inside of this Twitch metrics exporter, again, bringing it back to the state machine. Right? I have these events. When I go live, then my state machine changes. When I have a go live event, then my state machine changes. Well, then when that happens, then I want to check, whatever the schedule is. And then I'm good. So the state machine right now, let's just jump into it because this is where my head's at the moment. GitHub where did I put it? I think I put it in Java Grunt, and I need to move it if I'm going to deploy it. I have it set up so it's got a schedule, and I'm going to just do it here and not jump into an IDE. Nope, it's in this one. Where I just said, hey, every 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes go and look at these things. But the thing is, if I did all of these every 10 minutes, live viewer count, right? Live viewer count is going to change a little bit. Bounded context, Twitch followers, YouTube subscribers, Twitch subscribers, YouTube members. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's it. So, got to have those things. And they're interesting metrics. But this one particular, if I'm live streaming, I don't want to only get the live viewer count every 10 minutes. That might be too much of a window when people are coming and going throughout. So maybe when I'm live streaming, I do it every 5 minutes or every 3 minutes. I don't know what the API limits are. I know I've ran into them. But the rest of them, the followers count, the number of moderators, again, it was just an API that I could go and hit. Subscription count, the number of videos, like those are things that I can track and I can capture at any time. And if I'm not live streaming, maybe every 10 minutes is too much, right? I was trying to find a happy medium, but maybe this should be two different polling rates or whatever. So the idea here is how can I improve it? Well, I can use this Spring State Machine, right? As I'm sampling, as I'm asking the API, it's not even a go live. I don't even have to listen for event. Is live, I think, is one of the endpoints that I can get. I think that's one of the ones that I'm already doing. Isn't there a WebSocket based API for that? Yeah. Is there? I'm using Twitch4j. So I don't know. And I feel like I even ran into something. Sorry, here's the question. Isn't there a WebSocket based API for that info? I'm not sure. Like, yeah, if you attach to like the live stream and the events, yes, you can. There is one. And maybe that's where this shifts. But I can go in and I can ask. I don't have to subscribe to that all the time. I can go in and I can ask, am I live? Like, does this thing need to be running all the time? Because maybe it would be cooler if, like today, I went live, I got an event from YouTube, and then I can do all the things, right? Wouldn't it be cool if I maybe had that same thing so that I didn't have to have it running all the time? But maybe every time I go live on Twitch, I get an event that stands up my Twitch metrics exporter, and I start to calculate. I start to do things. That might be interesting. But if I'm live or not, I'm trying to look for a cool Spring State Machine, because this is a project that's awesome. And I'm trying to look for a fun project that I can do live, not too complex, just simple enough where like, hey, are you streaming? Yeah, okay, then go ahead and check for live viewers. If you're not streaming, then just get the other stuff. It'd be cool. So yeah, that's a what do I need this information for question. Again, I'm just thinking up projects at this point. And I've got this, if I'm committed to doing these weekly live streams, then there's a bunch of little things that I can build off of it, right? There's a bunch of fun things. But I draw this picture. One of the projects that I'm very interested in is Spring Modulith. So when we're doing this in a group and we're async, and this is, I think, a good question for you, Jitter's Head. When we're doing things in a group and asynchronous, like sometimes it's like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna go and build this thing while you go and work on this thing and on and work over here. GitHub, clue to solve, on and worked on this YouTube Spring Cloud starter, right? Like we had these different pieces and it made sense for them to be in different buckets and different code. But now that I've kind of like built some things together, do I really want this to be a separate microservice from this, especially if I'm in this type of an architecture? If I'm deploying on Raspberry Pis, do I want to deploy 3 or 4 different things, even though they're scaling to 0? Because once it's done, it's done. So I'm looking and thinking about, I could bring these into a Modulith, which is it's a weird dynamic, and I don't think that's the way it was being proposed. The idea of the Modulith was, hey, if we do these things in modules, right? The other way. If we do these things in modules, or in this modulith, if we do these things together in the same repository, we can still get the benefits of good practices so that if at some point this module needs to scale separately, we can pull it out. But don't optimize for a microservice architecture like when you're an MVP. Have these practices sometimes, right? And this, maybe this is like again, I asked this with you, like if I'm doing the mob programming pairing, right? Like how many things do we want to be keeping track of? I talked about this rotations and stuff. Like we had a bunch of things that we were keeping track of. So you almost had to pair in order to keep up with what was being developed in the rest of the company. Another benefit of this Spring Modulith, I believe. Okay, thank you. Another benefit here is, I can keep my head around all the changes that are happening if these are done as modules. So you heard that it's time to eat, but in my head, this is a much easier thing to wrap my head around and to keep a context around when we're in these small groups trying to accomplish big things like MVPs. It seems like it'd be much better as a module. And then even this, like this project that we're working on, like as I'm building this thing, even though it's got these distinct, in my head, these distinct modules, like the listener that's subscribed to YouTube and this Spring AI project that's going to do all of the analysis. Those in my head are two very different things, and they were developed that way, and it made sense to do it that way. So in my head, I'm thinking maybe I pull this down into a single deployable module that does all the things, but still has those nice lines of communication. And the line of communication here, whether that's a REST call or an event that goes from one module to the next, right? Whatever that looks like, that's the idea. Right, so a typical thing is a bot that is on a timer and sends a message chat. Yep. Yay for monolith, especially modular over microservices. The modulith. We were just talking about that in my weekly book club. Fantastic. I've had a great time. For everybody, let me shout out Jonas. It's time for me to eat. Thank you again. I'm not gonna be able to say thank you enough for all the help and for hanging out. Get your rest. I hope to see you again this upcoming week. Enjoy. Robotech says later, but yes, JitterTed has a great community. He's been doing this for a long time. I aspire to be more like him in many, many ways. And yeah, MVP is the worst time to create microservices. Yeah. I like to say for your MVP, MVP should work on your laptop. Like until you're funded, until you're about to scale, it should just work on your laptop until you're ready to launch. If you're launching, cool, you can take it off. But if you haven't launched, if you're not taking real customers, it should just be on your laptop. I've worked with a lot of startups where they go and they're gonna microservices and infrastructure and automation, Terraform. They do all these other things when their MVP is still at the idea state. Yeah, they got all this path to production stuff, all the stuff that the patterns that they love from their work, and they take it and they go and deploy all this infrastructure. And now they got $1,000 a month cloud bill, and their product is still at a 0.0.1 idea. So yeah, refactoring is so much easier in a monolith. Yeah, all these things. Christopher Person, turquoise waving, wonderful. So I'm going to wrap up. This was fun. I'm going to be working on this. My family's going to go to the zoo. But like I said, this is more important than watching the game. It's not more important to hang out with my family, but there's more stuff there. Extended family wants to come in and use my ticket, and that's good. Like, let's do that. Because my head is wrapped on this and I have an issue. So I'm going to come in. I'm going to make some of these changes. I'll probably be streaming again later today. Thank you for joining. Thanks for hanging out. And yeah, tune in again. I'm going to be doing more of the same. Thanks. Jitter Ted. It's always a wonderful time. And I'm having a lot of fun in your Discord. So if you get a chance, I should do this before I go. I should do, again, I got to do better at this. Twitch.tv/ I'm going to go to my creator and I'm going to do this and I do / shout out Jitter Ted. Shout out to Jitter Ted. If you get a chance, I highly recommend it. It's a great show. He's got a great community. He's doing wonderful things, and I'm glad you're here, Andre. I'm glad that you stuck around. This Spring State machine for managing lambdas, it's definitely doable. Hopefully, my talk helped illuminate some of that. But I'll be back later. So yeah, come back because I'm definitely going to work on something. I don't know what. Something Spring State machine this week. I've got a bunch of streams coming this week. Yes. Perfect. I thought very seriously about this. The reason I am streaming, when I stream, this is Central Time. I did not want to overlap your streams. So I'm starting early so that I don't overlap any of your streams. I enjoy your streams. Thomas, good night. Thank you so much for hanging out. I will be back on later and I'll be here tomorrow morning. But yeah, don't cross the streams. Don't cross the streams unless we're streaming together. Then of course, cross the streams. It's more power. So yes, wonderful. Thanks everybody for joining. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you again soon. Thanks.